So again, the topic of our opening here today is doubt the problem. Doubt the problem. Oftentimes, as we go through life situations, life events unfolding one after another, it happens in my life as well. I'm no different than any of you. I go through my own life events unfolding. And as we go through them, if we are not practiced at trusting in the source within us, trusting that we're not separate from the source within us, we are more likely to doubt that, right? We are more likely to trust fully in the bad thing happening, right? And that's what worry is. Worry is just a deep contemplation of all that can go wrong, right? When we sit in worry, we're literally sitting in deep contemplation of all the different ways in which life can blow up, you know? By the way, as I go along, feel free to put your questions in the Q&A box. I'm not looking at the Q&A box. I'm not looking at the chat box until I'm done here, but I'm happy to chat after we go through this. And you can raise your hand if something strikes you and you have a question. When I get done, I'll go to the raised hands as well. But when something emerges in our life, especially when it kind of knocks us off, off kilter a little bit because it was unexpected, we're more likely to fly into worry, which is a deep contemplation of all that can go wrong, right? And what I want to invite you into, backed by some powerful words from A Course in Miracles, what I want to invite you into is doubting the problem. So if you can conjure up in your mind something that in your life that you want to have, that you want to transmute, transcend, heal, whatever it is, are you willing to doubt the problem? That's the first question. Are you even willing to doubt the problem? Sometimes doubting the problem can be scary. And what do I mean by that? If I have to doubt that I have a financial problem, where does that leave me? It leaves you in the unknown, right? And the unknown can be very scary. But it's sometimes easier for us to trust that we have a financial problem. I have a financial problem, right? And it's easy to put our trust in that. I have a financial problem. But if I were to say to you, are you willing to doubt the problem? You'd be like, well, what do you mean? If I look at my bank account, this is what's happening. If I pay attention to what my body feels like right now, I am not well in my body. If I look back on the past few days as what's been happening in my body, I'm not well in my body. And you're trusting in the problem. And the invitation today is to begin doubting the problem. And I will say again, that can feel scary because you have to let go of your faith in the problem, right? You have to let go of the belief that your body is ailing. Giving that some space, because some of you are like, wait, what? you would have to be, in order to doubt the problem, you would have to be willing to let go of the belief that your body is ailing in some way. But Allison, it hurts. Are you willing to doubt the problem? More coming in a second. First step is, are you willing? Are you willing to doubt the problem? You would have to be willing first. Are you willing to relinquish trust in your state of lack, perceived state of lack? Are you willing to look at your bank account and doubt that that's the limit? Let me say that again. Are you willing to look at your bank account and doubt that that's the limit of what you have access to? Are you willing to feel the pain in your body and doubt that that's going to take you under? Are you willing to feel the discomfort in your body and doubt that that's there to linger for a long time? Are you willing to doubt? And again, when we're willing to doubt, what does that leave you with, right? What are you gonna latch on to? Because when we have a high degree of trust in the problem, we have a lot of story around it. We're familiar with the story. We can tell other people the story. We can tell ourselves the story. We can say, I can't do this because my body is ailing. I can't do this because I have no money. I can't, we have a lot of stories around it. And if we're willing to doubt the problem, we're kind of uncertain. Well, if I don't believe that that's the limit, then what am I going to believe in? What am I going to believe in then? I really trusted that this problem existed, so I have something to work toward, which is getting rid of the problem. And that keeps me alive. It's, in a sense, it's like, well, I got to do something about this. So that keeps life going. Like I have to move from point A to point B, but it first starts with the existence of this problem. But if I doubt that this problem exists, where does that leave me? I'm a little uncertain. Where does that leave me? Are you willing to doubt the problem? Are you willing to let go and relinquish your trust in the story? Are you willing? I'm just asking for willingness. Some of you, yeah, I'm willing, but how? Just, are you willing? Can you feel within yourself now? Like if you close your eyes, put your hands on your heart, and you perceive whatever is arising in your life, and you ask yourself, am I willing to doubt the problem? Am I willing to doubt this problem? You're either going to hear a hell yes or maybe if I know what to do next, But are you at least willing? Can you feel your willingness? Can you tap into your willingness to doubt the problem? I'm willing to doubt. I'm willing to doubt the problem. So often our doubt is in the solution. We doubt the solution all the time. Every day we're doubting the solution, right? So now let's go into some verbiage from A Course in Miracles that's incredible, just incredible. Okay, so here's the first one. This is the situation of the world. Hang on. Bring this up in front of me here. This is the situation of the world, the problem of separation, which is really the only problem, has already been solved. But the solution is not recognized because the problem is not recognized. Let me read that again. The problem of separation, which is really the only problem. This is our perception that we are separated from Source, and there's work to be done to tap into the power of Source within us because we perceive ourselves as separate. So there's work to be done to close the gap. I'm not Source. I'm not one with Source. So I got to do something to be one with Source. And this problem that I'm focused upon, I believe in it so heavily that it creates the perception of separation. I believe that my body is not whole. In fact, I've been given a multiple set of diagnoses around what I'm experiencing. So my focus is on the problem, but this is saying the problem of separation, which by the way, folks, is really the only problem, has already been solved. But the solution is not recognized. Put a pin there. I'm gonna come back to recognition in a second. But the solution is not recognized because the problem is not recognized. Here's a powerful piece. Who can see that his or her problem has been solved if they think the problem is something else? Even if they're given the answer, they cannot see its relevance. So some of you may be looking at me right now going, well, what do you mean separation is the only problem? I have multiple problems. I have money problems. I have health problems. I have this kind of challenge. I have that kind of challenge. But who can see that their problem has been solved if they think the problem is something else? See, if you think the problem is lack of finances, then you're searching for answers in the financial arena. If you think the problem is a health issue, then you're searching for answers in the health arena. If you think the problem is a psychological issue, then you're searching for answers in the psychological arena. But you've already been given the answer. It's you believe that there's something, you're separate from the source within you. But even if you're given that as the answer, you cannot see its relevance because you believe the problem is money, or you believe the problem is health, or you believe the problem is mental or emotional. So it's saying you can't see that the problem has already been solved, meaning you're not separate from source. That's the only problem, is you believe that you're separate from source. But that problem has already been solved. You're not. But who can see that the problem has already been solved if they're thinking that the problem is something else? Even if you're given the answer, you can't see its relevance. But Allison, how's that relevant? How is my separation, my perceived separation from source, relevant to how much money I have in the bank? There's a physical bank account with limits. Well, the only way you can see limits is if you believe you're separate from source, which is the only problem. When you believe there's ailments in your body, of course, the doctors help you believe in that very strongly. They give you a diagnosis, they give you medication. I'm not saying don't take your medication, do the best you can with whatever you have. But the doctor is giving you a diagnosis, you believe in that, you're not willing to doubt that at all. I'm pausing for you to take that in. You're not willing to doubt the diagnosis at all. You're willing to trust in the problem. But you can't see the relevance of being separate from source being the only problem. You can't see the relevance of that because you don't doubt the problem yet. You trust in the problem. You trust in the diagnoses. But if you recognize that you're not separate from source, then you also recognize that that oneness is the source of your wellness. Your oneness is the source of your financial abundance. Your oneness is the source of your emotional stability. But you can't see that that's the solution. You can't even see the relevance because you think the problem is money. You think the problem is health. And you have all these different things coming up in your life, and you're like, well, I have to solve the health problem. I have to figure out how to solve the health problem this way. And then there's the money problem. So we got to figure out how to solve that money problem. And then I just go, I'm not in a good mood a lot of the time. And then I figure out how to solve all of that. And so the message here is saying the problem has already been solved, but you can't see that it's been solved because you're so distracted looking at all of these different problems that you're not willing to doubt. Here's another one. This is from A Course in Miracles again. This is the position in which you find yourself now. You have the answer. You have the answer, but you're still uncertain about what the problem is. You have the answer, but you're uncertain about what the problem is. And what's the uncertainty? The uncertainty is, no, I think it's money. No, I think it's health. No, I think it's emotional stability. No, I think it's panic attacks. No, I think it's, whatever it is. It says you have the answer, but you're still uncertain about what the problem is. A long series of problems seem to confront you. And as one is settled, the next one and the next arise. There seems to be no end to them. There's no time in which you feel completely free of problems and at peace. Because we're always going from one problem to another. I gotta solve, now this happened, I gotta solve that, no, this happened, I gotta solve that. The temptation to regard problems as many is the temptation to keep the problem of separation unsolved. Let me say that again. I'm re-chewing on this again, y'all. The temptation to regard problems as many is the temptation to keep the problem of separation, to perceive separation from source, unsolved. All that is necessary is to entertain, this is why I call this segment Doubt the Problem. All that's really necessary, says A Course in Miracles, is to entertain some degree of doubt, some doubt about the reality of our version of what our problems are. Just a little bit of doubt. Can you, just a little bit of doubt, just a little bit of doubt. Here's a note that I wrote to myself when I was going through this lesson. This was my reflection. I said, as source energy, I recognize my problems have been solved. The problem has been solved because we no longer believe we're separate from the source within us. We feel complete peace when we accept this truth. We are not troubled by problems when we accept this truth. We are troubled only when the problem deceives us into believing that it is truth. Let me say that again. Let me say that again. We are troubled only when the problem deceives us into believing that it is truth. Now, here's words from A Course in Miracles. Your one central problem has already been answered, and you don't have any other problems. Therefore, you must be at peace. Say it again. Your one central problem, which is the belief that we're separate from source, has already been answered, meaning you're not. That's just a perception that's false. It's a false perception. So that problem, which is only perceived, has already been answered, and you don't have any other problems. Therefore, you must be at peace. If you truly believe that, you must be at peace. Here's another one. You are entitled, let's stress that. You are entitled to peace today, says the Course. You are entitled to peace today. A problem, this is so, a problem which has already been resolved cannot trouble you. Y'all take that in a little bit. I'm gonna take a pause right here. You are entitled to peace today. A problem which has already been resolved cannot trouble you. Only be certain that you do not forget that all your problems are the same. Their many forms will not deceive you while you remember this. One problem, one solution. Accept the peace in this simple statement, the peace this simple statement brings. A problem which has already been resolved cannot trouble you. And you are entitled to peace today because of that. A problem which has already been resolved cannot trouble you. And you are entitled to peace today because of that. Accept the peace this simple statement brings. A problem which has already been resolved. If you truly believe the problem has been resolved, it cannot trouble you. It does not have the ability to trouble you. It can only trouble you if you believe in the problem and you believe in its existence and you believe that it hasn't been resolved. A problem that has already been resolved cannot disturb your peace. A problem which has already been resolved cannot disturb your peace. A problem that has already been resolved cannot disturb your peace. What do you believe? What do you believe? A few more lines from A Course in Miracles. Your only problem has already been solved. Repeat this over and over to yourself today with gratitude and conviction. I remember when I went through this lesson, I followed that advice. I was walking around going, my only problem has already been resolved. Therefore, everything is resolved already. My only problem is the perception that I'm separate from the source within me. That is a false perception. Therefore, that problem has already been resolved, and everything that goes along with it has been resolved as well. Because I am not separate from source, anything that I perceive as a problem on this planet, anything I perceive as a problem is a false perception. It has already been resolved. I have to be willing to doubt that the problem exists and to see that it has already been resolved. It has already been resolved. Repeat this over and over to yourself today with gratitude and conviction. The title of the lessons were Let Me Recognize the Problem so that it can be solved, the true problem. And then the next lesson, lesson 80, was Let Me Recognize My Problems Have Already Been Solved. Here's another note that I wrote to myself, which was a personal reflection. The solution to a problem is deciding it's not a problem. That was one of my contemplations when I was going over this lesson. I would walk around saying, the solution to a problem is deciding it's not a problem. Because all of my problems have already been resolved. Because I am not separate from the source within me, that's why. The solution to this problem is deciding it's not a problem. The solution to this problem is deciding it is not a problem. The solution to this problem is deciding it's not a problem. The solution to my financial situation is deciding it's not a problem. The solution to my body aches, ailments, etc. is deciding it is not a problem. It has already been resolved because I am one with the source that is within me. If I'm one with the source that's within, that's the only problem. The only time I can perceive the problems that exist is when I perceive myself to be separate from source. Therefore, I don't have access to what source has access to. Therefore, I'm really in trouble. But when I'm one with the source that is within me, and y'all, when I say the words, because sometimes we can say these words and it's sort of frivolous and it doesn't land. When I say I am one, I am not separate from the source within me, what goes through my mind is, what is source? I am that. What is source? I am that. So when I say the words, I am not separate from the source that is within me, it doesn't mean I have to go within me and find something called source. What I'm conjuring up in my mind is, what is source? What is the energy of source? And what are the capabilities of the energy of source? Oh, I'm that. What are the attributes of source? Oh, I'm that. Right. I'm that. When I say I'm not separate from the source that is within me, that's what I'm conjuring up. Sometimes I'm conjuring up this imagery of the creation of our planet. Oh, I'm that. The creation of the stars, the universe, the trees, the beauty around me. Wait, I'm that. The limitless abundance around us on a day-to-day basis. Oh, wait, that which created all of that, I'm that. When I say I am one with the source that is within me, I feel the oneness with that which created all things. And if I'm one with that which created all things, then all of my problems are solved. I'm not separate. Even as I become the witness of this body having some pain in it, or I'm the witness of the body going through whatever it's happening, right? The physical apparatus is feeling fatigue or pain or whatever. When you're having that experience, see it as source, not as you. So step outside of yourself for a moment and just become the witness of it. That way you're not so invested in what the body is feeling. Oh, there's the body feeling some degree of pain. Oh, there's the body feeling some degree of fatigue. Oh, there's the body feeling some degree of not wellness. That's what the body is currently experiencing. But as source, which is what I am, I want y'all to hear this. As source, which is what I am, this is not a problem. This that I'm witnessing the body experiencing is not a problem. This that I'm experiencing, this that I am witnessing the body experiencing is not a problem. It's not a problem because I've stepped outside of the experience, and it's powerful to do that, y'all, to step outside of the experience. Because when you're inside of the experience, it's almost like you're within the boundaries and the chains of what's happening. You're in the pain, you're in the discomfort of the body, you're in the what this bank account balance means. You're in all of these things, right? You're in this feeling of unworthiness. You're in all of that. But when you can step outside, and I really invite you to do this often, as often as you possibly can, because when you can do this as often as you possibly can, you begin to become very used to the perspective of the source within you. So as your body has pain, you say to yourself, let me step outside of this for a minute and just watch me have the experience. And from this peaceful place, which is where source is, watching me have this experience, it's not a problem. You're less pulled into the story when you're witnessing the story. And when you become used to witnessing the story on a regular basis, you can retreat from the story at any time. You can retreat from the role. You can retreat from the skit at any time. You can say, let me step out. Sometimes I imagine that there's this camera up in the corner of my room looking at me. And I go into the camera and I go, oh, there's Allison sitting there having this thought, having these emotions, having this physical experience, whatever. And I'm just watching me in that moment. When you're able to step outside of the story and become the witness of the story, I'm just watching me. There I am, laying in the bed, feeling discomfort in my physical body. There I am, laying in the bed, having this thought. There I am, looking at my bank balance. There I am. And from the witness where peace ensues, I become far more where I give it much more space to perceive this as not a problem. There's a lot more room as the witness to doubt the problem. But if you're inside of the problem, you're in the pain, you're in the body, and you can experience that too, it's fine. But you've got to be able to retreat from the story and watch yourself. Just give yourself a minute, 60 seconds, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, to just watch you and just observe this human having this experience. Isn't it interesting that we go through these things in physical bodies? But as source energy, not as your human nature. We see everything through the eyes of our physical body, right? We're always looking at the situation through the eyes of our physical body, but we were source energy before we came into these bodies. We never actually left being source energy. We never exited. We're not we're not separate from source energy. That is who we are. And when you're able to exit the human perspective and step outside the drama for a second, just say to yourself, you know what, let me just, as the pain in your body is happening, or as you're looking at the bank account, or as your mind is telling you you're not worthy, or whatever it is happening, you go, let me step outside for a second. And you step outside the experience and you watch you immediately feel some sense of peace because you're not entangled in the story anymore. It doesn't have you in its grip, in its clenches. You're not in there. You're like, I'm gonna step outside for a second. I'm just gonna watch my body having an experience, knowing fully well that all of this has already been resolved. I'm already aware, it's already resolved. And as I stand outside of the arena of the story, I can see that I have the ability to doubt the problem and trust that it has already been resolved. And when you take those frequent pullbacks from the story, I say frequent, as frequently as you possibly can, pull back from the story and watch you. There's my body sitting in the chair, feeling some discomfort, feeling some whatever, mental, emotional, whatever it is you're experiencing, you just watch you. When you pull back, you're able to see more. Let me add something in here and then I'll read the rest of the Course in Miracles and then we'll go into the June contemplation. Think about how to share this. There is a guy who has gone home. So I call dying now. He's gone home. I think his name was Les Femi. I can't remember his full name. What I'm going to share with you are 2 ways to retreat into peace very quickly. It just came to me as I was saying retreat, that I have played with and they have been quite helpful. So I wanted to pass it along to you and you can play with it in the month of June as well. So this guy named Les Femi was trying to figure out, I'm probably mispronouncing his name, y'all. I watched a bunch of videos from 15 years ago. And this happened because last year I was rereading Joe Dispenza's book called Becoming Supernatural. And his meditations that I've clicked on a few times, it still doesn't resonate with me a whole lot, but I've clicked on them a few times and he always goes, in space. And I'm like, why is he saying that? Like, I don't understand. Focus on your organ in space. And I'm like, what does that mean? I can't do this meditation. Anyway, I was reading his book and he mentioned why he does that. His meditations still don't resonate with me, even though I do understand why he does it. It still feels overdone to me, but it lit curiosity within me. And I was like, who did he say he got it from? And I started doing my own research, trying to understand why he's doing that in his meditations. Well, it turned out that this guy was trying to measure if he can put himself in the alpha state, which is a very peaceful state, right? Not ingrained in the problem, but in the alpha state that we tend to go into when we're in meditation. And so he wanted to measure how he can make himself do that on a dime. And he was hooked up to all these things and he was getting frustrated that he couldn't put himself, like intentionally just quickly put himself into the alpha state. I don't know why he was on this track of trying to prove that to himself, but he was trying to just get into the alpha state really quickly. He couldn't do it. He was measuring all kinds of stuff. He brought people into studies to see if we can, have them do certain things where they can instantly go into the alpha state. None of it was working. And then one day he was hooked up to all the probes and stuff that he was measuring his mental state in. And he was so frustrated that he just gave up. He just like, I can't get this. Suddenly he noticed he went into the alpha state. As he surrendered, he went into the alpha state. He gave up. He left the grappling with, how do I figure this out? And it took him a while to recognize that what put him in a peaceful alpha state was paying attention to the space in the room. So when he gave up, he was just staring in space. And all of a sudden, peace started coming into him. And he didn't realize that that was a quick way to do it. And I do that today. Sometimes if I'm engrossed in something, trying to figure something out, but I'll just pull out and I will, it's very simple. You just literally, if you're sitting in a room right now, which most of you are, instead of looking at the walls, focus your attention on the space between you and the wall, the space between you and the computer, the space between you and the window. Like you're focused on the space between you and something else. So you're not focused on the thing, you're focused on the space. Let's do that together right now. Take a deep breath and just focus on the space. To do that, you have to let go of everything else in your mind. And so that's one thing that I've played with that has always been really cool for me. Oftentimes when I'm sitting out in nature, I'm staring at the space between me and the sky. And somehow it puts me in a different brain space. It's just very quiet. He called it open focus. Narrow focus is me, the problem, the story, that this is happening, that's happening, my back hurts, I have to take this medication, I can't sleep, all these different things. There's not enough money, we're all in the story, right? Pull out, and you just stare at the space between you and whatever, you and the wall. Even if it's just for 60 seconds, it shifts you. Internally, it shifts you. So I'll leave you with that. You can play with that. Another one that has been helpful to me, I shared it with one of you in a private one-on-one. I'll talk about private one-on-one shortly too for the month of June. I got this from Michael Singer, author of The Untethered Soul. I was listening to one of his podcasts where he said, one of the ways to not, because you know people always talk about blocked trauma, blocked energy. I believe you have a block if you believe you have a block, right? It's not a problem. But if you believe it's a problem, it becomes a problem, right? I don't believe in blockages. I don't think any of us are blocked. But we are, because we perceive ourselves to be blocked. Therefore, there we are in the story of being blocked because we have claimed that as our story. But anyway, he was talking about how different experiences from our past, our childhood or whatever can come through. And every time we think about it, we feel tense, right? We feel whatever. Or you look at your bank account, you feel tense. You think about how long am I going to have to suffer with this thing in my body? You feel tense, right? So one of his techniques is, as the thing that makes you anxious, worried, tight, whatever, that as that story arises in your mind, the tendency is to push back and resist it because you know it's going to make you feel bad, or to just kind of tighten up, right? Because, oh my God, there's that feeling again of anxiousness and fear and anxiety or whatever. It's kind of, there it is again. Oh God, I want to feel that. I won't feel that. But one of his techniques is, as the story comes up in your mind and the emotion comes up in your body, just let it through. He calls it let it through. And I say to myself now, just let it through, Allison. Just let it through. Just let it through, Allison, just let it through. And what am I doing? His technique, very simple, is as you experience the emotion of anxiety, fear, worry, whatever, as it's coming up within you, you just breathe and you go from the top of your head to the soles of your feet and you relax every muscle in your body. Your eyelids, your cheeks, your neck, shoulders, chest, arms, hands, stomach, butt, thighs, lower legs, ankles, feet, toes. You just sort of name all the muscles in your body and you literally let go. And that's his technique for letting the energy move through you rather than letting it stick, right? Because when we get worried, it's like it goes on replay, right? Because we're not letting it through. We're participating with it. We're like, yeah, I know. Just let it through, breathe, let it through. Relax every muscle in your body. And you can do that if your boss pisses you off at work. You're like, relax every muscle in your body. Every muscle, eyes, cheeks. You just say it in your mind. Relax everything, relax everything, relax everything, relax everything, relax everything, relax everything. And then he says, the next question I get when I share this as a technique with people is, okay, and then what? And his answer is, then nothing. You just keep doing that every time that energy comes up. Every time the energy of worry comes up, you do that. Every time the energy of worry comes up, you do that. Every time the energy of fear comes up, you do. You let it through. Just let it through. You let it through. You let it through. And at some point, it will stop bothering you. But here's what I discovered about that in playing with it for myself, is that when the fear, the worry, the anxiety, whatever it is coming up and I'm letting it through by relaxing, because I now have that practice on repeat, I'm retraining my brain to when I have this thought about that thing to go to peace. That's what I discovered. He never said that, but I pay attention to how we retrain our brain, right? I'm like, wait a minute. So every time I have this thought about the bank account and I feel anxiety and I go, let it through, let it through. Or I have this thought about my ailment and I get discouraged or anxious, whatever, let it through, Allison, let it through. Or I get some thought about, some whatever in my family, let it through, let it through, let it through. Don't hold on to it, let it through. I'm retraining my brain to find peace when that thought comes up. I'm retraining my body to respond with relaxation when that story comes up in my mind. And the repetition of it, what I have found over time, like, I'll practice with a particular thing that keeps coming up, right? And after a while, my body instantly wants to relax the minute that thought comes up. And my body goes to peace when that thought comes up. I wonder if you combine that, just had this thought. I wonder if you combine the relaxation with focus on space as well. That could be powerful. I just had that thought. I may play with that. But anyway, I wanted to share those two things with you. Another one that I've heard from Michael Singer that I haven't practiced a whole lot, so I can't say, from my personal experience with it, is he says how one way, there's many paths to peace, there's many paths to whatever, right? One of the ways in which you can stay in a state of presence is to always be focused on your breath, no matter what you're doing in life. I'm like, what? Can I do an event and focus on my breath? Turns out you can. I practiced it a little bit as I was driving, where I'm like, on this drive to the store to get these things done, I'm gonna hold the intention that I'm always gonna be focused on my breath, whether I'm having a conversation with the cashier or I'm trying to figure out what to buy, I'm gonna be coming back to my breath constantly. And it is possible to live life constantly focused on your breath. He offers that as a technique for constantly staying present. Again, I have not explored this a lot. I can't say that I did it repeatedly, but maybe I'll explore that this month. I don't know. But that's another one that you can feel free to play with and explore as well. Okay, so back to doubting the problem, and then we'll go into the June contemplation. The solution to a problem is deciding it's not a problem. And here's a couple other snippets from A Course in Miracles. And I will understand that it is impossible that I could have a problem which has not been solved already. I seem to have problems only because, this was really interesting for me. Listen to this. I seem to have problems only because I'm misusing time. I believe that the problem comes first and that time must elapse before the problem can be worked out. I do not see the problem and the answer as simultaneous in their occurrence. Let's say that again. I seem to have problems only because I am misusing time. I believe that the problem comes first and that time must elapse before the problem can be worked out. I do not see the problem and the answer as simultaneous in their occurrence. That is because I do not yet realize that Source has placed the answer together with the problem so that they cannot be separated by time. Spirit will teach me this if I let him. And I will understand that it is impossible that I could have a problem which has not been solved already. I need not wait for this to be resolved. The answer to this problem is already given to me if I will accept it. Time cannot separate this problem from its solution. Time cannot separate this problem from its solution. Time, y'all, I'm one for repetition. Time cannot separate this problem from its solution. Time is irrelevant between this problem and the solution. Time does not play a role unless I want it to play a role. Time cannot separate this problem from its solution. And many of us have explored a lot of videos, Joe Dispenza videos on YouTube, where people go into his events and he has them locked away, meditating 6-8 hours a day for 7 days. And the only thing that they can focus on, or what they're encouraged to focus on, is the solution. And all of a sudden, people are walking out of their wheelchairs, like instantly. People are healing ailments instantly. People with stage 4 cancer, instant healing. Time cannot separate the problem from the solution unless we believe time has to exist between the two. But if we're able to start with doubting the problem and reconnecting with the source that is within us, we've never disconnected, but it's really a recognition of the connection that's already there, then we're able to collapse time. And we don't have to wait for the problem to be resolved. Let me say a little bit more on that. The reason why we believe time has to elapse before we move into an experience is because we believe something physical has to happen in order for it to be resolved, right? So our brains cannot grasp that there are infinite potentials for how this can be resolved, right? It is already resolved. Our brains cannot grasp what we can't see, and our brains are very uncomfortable with the unknown. So because we can only think and perceive of things, the physical, we tend to default to the physical every time. So because we tend to default to the physical every time, we believe, well, I have to do this and then do this and then do this in order for it to be resolved. So I'm running a business. Well, I have to hire some people and get the marketing done and do this launch and do this for the money to come. But that's our belief in time, because we're so used to perceiving life that way. So we believe if there's an ailment in my body, okay, I have to connect with a healer, I have to do 6 sessions, I have to have the money to do the 6 sessions, because we have a belief in only a physical path to the solution. But if the solution already exists, then we can, if we come into the recognition that the solution already exists, then we're not so committed to a sequential set of events for something to happen. We're like, well, no, that potential exists right now in the field of possibilities, right? That potential exists right now. So whether I take a set of marketing steps to make my business work, or whether I do this set of things to expand my business or not, whatever reason I'm doing it, right? So why are you expanding the business? Well, so I can get more money to feel safe and secure. That's a really strong belief in only the physical. So your safety and your security lies in only your physical ability to expand the business and to do this thing, right? Similarly, if I have a career that I want to launch, like I'm an actor or whatever in the performing arts, my son is in the performing arts, so that's coming to me. I have this performing arts career that I want to launch, and my brain says, you got to do all these set of steps in why do you want to launch the career and become successful? Some of it is fun, just being on stages and all that could be fun. But a lot of it is because the bigger I get, the more money I get. And the more money I get, the more safe I can feel, the more secure that I can feel. So ultimately, you believe you're separate from source. So you have to source your sense of security through the career, through the business expansion, through the whatever, the healing modality or whatever. All of these things are fine to experience here on earth, but my invitation is, when are you going to choose to be open to the unknown? So if I said to you, well, don't think of any of those things, the marketing, the business expansion, the career launch, blah, blah, blah. If I say to you, don't think about any of those things as your sense of security, what if they didn't exist? What if none of that existed? Your business never expanded, the marketing didn't work, blah, 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 blah. What would you trust in? Most human beings would go directly into fear. No, I have to make this work or I won't have enough money for my safety and security, right? Even those of you with jobs, I have to put aside a certain sum of money into my 401k to make sure I'm safe when I'm 75, All of those things are a physical path that requires time. It's like I have to put aside a little bit of money in my 401k every month for the next 40 years so that when I get to 65, 70, there's something there, right? So that I can feel safe. All of that requires a belief in time, and it also requires that you stay married to the known, right? You have to see your belief is only what you can physically conjure up in your mind. But there's a place that we can get to where we go, I can collapse time if I choose to put my sense of security in the fact that I am not separate from source. So as source, let me use some of your names here. It's not as Gloria, it's not as Ina, it's not as Jasmine, it's not as Keisha, it's not as Drea, as source. Let's just go into, because I'm moving into the contemplation, right? So that is all of what I wanted to share around doubting the problem. What I'm going to go into now is is the contemplation for this month, and I want to step through it. I want to step through it because I want you to really have an experience this month, not just a practice. I want everyone to be experiencing something. Everyone will experience something different. Everyone will gravitate to a different part of this contemplation, but I'm going to step you through it. So let's see here. Thank you everyone for watching the first part of this event. The second part will be titled Tapping into New Possibilities, and that will be uploaded shortly after this one. I'll try to remember to put it on screen so that you can click through and continue viewing. And that's it for now. As always, remember to take what resonates, discard what does not, and I will see you in the continuation of this video.